Good morning. This is Bo van der Eems from the Online Home Education Expo, and today I'm talking to Marc Ries. Marc is the owner of Love2Learn and also an exhibitor at the Online Home Education Expo. Good morning, Marc. How are you?
Yes, good morning, Bo. I'm very well, thank you, and yourself?
Excellent. Thanks for talking to us. Marc, your company is a well-established player in the home education sector. Just give us some background of how it came about.
Yeah, with pleasure, Bo. Thanks. Yes, we've been around for quite a long time. We as a family started homeschooling our two daughters over 20 years ago. And it was in that process, my wife, Ivana, was a little disillusioned with the material that she found. So my wife is a great researcher. So she started to research other elements. She liked a bit about this curriculum, but didn't like the way they did that. And I don't want to go into details because I don't want to in any way speak badly about another curriculum. You know, it's horses for courses, and everyone needs to use what they believe works for their family. But the challenge was that she wasn't happy with what she was doing with our two daughters. So she started to develop her own material. And in that process, she researched curriculums from America, Canada, the UK, Australia, and the South African national curriculum. And from there, in a sense, the scope and sequence of Love2Learn was born from a kind of grade triple naught, double naught level. And so it started to grow. And in that process, we then had to decide how do we want Love2Learn to finish. And the option was that you do 12 years worth of material, and at the end there's kind of like a figurative handshake and, you know, thanks very much and all the best, which is not a problem if you're in America, because many of the colleges and universities over there have an entrance exam. But as you know, in South Africa, that's not an option. You either knock on the door of the university with a matric exemption in your hand, or you're not coming in. So we wanted to finish with something that we felt was of a commensurate quality with what Love2Learn offers. And in that process, we researched the National Senior Certificate with IEB, the National Curriculum of South Africa. We researched the SATs from America, and we also then looked at the Cambridge School Leaving Qualification. And, you know, Cambridge has a lot of advantages in terms of, A, the quality of education that they give, and secondly, not only are they fully recognized locally, but they also have a lot of international recognition with colleges and institutions across the world. And we really felt that the Cambridge offering was going to be a better fit with Love2Learn's quality. So we then set about developing support material to align with the Cambridge syllabus and prepare students. And out of that was birthed our sister company, Imperial International College. And that focuses on the grades 10 to 12 phase for international GCSEs and AS levels, which is your 10, 11, and then grade 12, which gives you your school leaving qualification. So that kind of in a nutshell is we started homeschooling, didn't really like everything that we were seeing. We started to develop our own. We're also a Christian curriculum, if I could use that phrase. We seek to honor the Lord Jesus Christ. And that was something else. We didn't just want a Bible curriculum that was a verse a day keeps the devil away. We wanted to build and grow into a curriculum from a biblical point of view that offered inductive study of God's word. And so we built that into the curriculum right from a preschool level. It slowly grows and builds across up to the grade 9 level. And then 10 to 12, we obviously through Imperial, it's the Cambridge syllabus preparation.
Thank you, Marc. So describe the products and services that are offered by your organization.
Okay. Love2Learn is a sort of unique design from the following perspective. We have essentially two groups of subjects. We have a group of subjects that we've called discipline studies, and then we've got a grouping of subjects that we've called content studies. What's really important right up front to understand is Love2Learn is modular. So you can order as little as one subject at a time from us. You could say, I'm happy with curriculum X, or I'm using an eclectic mix, but I've heard that your prime maths is absolutely superb. We've just recently launched a new English curriculum that focus a lot on the Collins material from the UK. It's absolutely superb. And you could say, look, I've got a grade 3 and a grade 5 child. I just want grade 3 English and grade 5 English, please. Or we have a very broad, rich, and varied range of subjects in Love2Learn, broader than most. And you could take as much of that as you want. It's Ivana loves to talk about the fact that Love2Learn is a bit like a giant box of Lego. You get to choose the pieces you want to clip together in order to tailor make a curriculum for your child or children, depending on the needs. So we have discipline studies and content. In the disciplines, we've got, those are the subjects that tend to be more foundational and linear. So typically your maths, English, Afrikaans, French, Latin, learning to read, learning to write, critical thinking, STEM, computing. Those subjects tend to be linear. You can't, if you've got 2 children, give grade 5 maths to a grade 3 child. For obvious reasons, there's foundations in grade 3 and 4 that you need before you can move to grade 5. So you can order grade 5 maths for the one child and grade 3 maths for the other child. Grade 5 English, grade 3 English, and so on. Now, those subjects need to be per child, the graded subjects. Then the grouping of content studies, here's where the unique offering from Love2Learn comes in. In the content studies, we've got all the, should we call them cultural type subjects? So in there we offer Bible, history, geography, biology, science, technology, human anatomy, life skills, business skills and economics, literature. And that starts, most of those subjects start right from preschool level, even human anatomy. And one of the things that we are very well known for is the full color, photo rich kind of living books that we like to talk about, living books that we offer. So don't picture your average, school textbook with 1 or 2 pictures here and there every 12th page. This is really engaging material. And within the content studies, the really beautiful thing about that is that it can bridge, one level of content studies can bridge up to 3 consecutive grade levels of children. So we don't talk about ages because ages are indicative. If you, depending on where you are in the world, if you could be 5 going to grade 1, or you could be 7 going to grade 1. Who's in grade 1, the 5-year-old or the 7-year-old? Well, they're both in grade 1. So it's not about 5-year-olds must do this and 6-year-olds must do that. We endeavor to be child-centered in the way we offer Love2Learn. We're not a system-centered. Typically a school environment is a system-centered environment. Your child comes to the environment and your child fits the environment. With Love2Learn, with our products, because we're modular, you can tailor to the individual and unique needs of your child. So the content study, so if you've got, for example, a grade 1, 2, and 3 child, you can combine all 3 children on, in this instance, level 2 content studies. The level 3's got their discipline studies for maths, English, Afrikaans. The grade 3. The grade 2's got their maths, English, Afrikaans. The grade 1's got their maths, English, Afrikaans. But they all share content studies level 2. And there you would be cherry picking out of the Bibles, histories, geographies, and so on of this world. So the beauty of that is, number 1, moms remain sane. And no offense to the dads who might be homeschooling, but generally the bulk of people who are homeschooling in the families tend to be the moms. So instead of running, because no curriculum dovetails with another curriculum. So you can't, if you order grade 1 history and grade 2 history and grade 3 history, you're going to get 3 different eras of history. So parents trying to, okay, you're doing French Revolution, who's doing Second World War? It's an absolute nightmare. And mom's just going to lose her sanity. And the beauty of Love2Learn is that within that realm of up to 3 consecutive grade levels, you can be teaching 1 history lesson, 1 geography lesson, 1 science lesson. And then the output from the children would then be different. your grade 3 output to your grade 2 to your grade 1. And that's a huge draw card for families in terms of using Love2Learn. And for that matter, cottage schools that use our curriculum. We're enormously blessed and privileged to serve families in around about 25 countries around the world, and cottage schools and learning centers and independent schools in 3 different countries. And it's that opportunity to combine kind of the one-room schoolhouse concept that's a big attraction. And so within that realm, the beauty of the way the curriculum is then designed is not only can you cherry pick the subjects, but when your children move up level to level, grade to grade, you only replace the workbooks, the consumable books. The way we understand a workbook is a book where you've written the answer next to the question. For obvious reasons, you can't use that for a younger sibling. You'd need to replace that book. But any other handbooks, the full color living books, etc., those are virtually family heirlooms of books, the kind of quality we offer. A lot of the Usbornes, a lot of the DK, a lot of the Kingfisher, etc. And so when it comes to maths, for example, you only replace the workbooks for when your grade 1 goes to grade 2 and your grade 2 now goes to grade 3. You've already got your teacher's guides, which come with most of our subjects. We have something fairly unique in our offering that we called it an engine room. We have engine rooms for almost every single subject right across the spectrum. And the engine room is our name for your daily lesson plans. And those daily lesson plans walk you through all the material for that subject that we've supplied over a period of, on average, 36 weeks. So a homeschooling year in Love2Learn terms is on average 180 days. And those 180 days you can divvy up in any way, shape or form. As you well know, Bo, there's no law that says you must cover government school holidays or you must follow private school holidays. One of the big attractions of homeschooling for families, and no matter what curriculum you're using, is that you get to set and determine your own holiday structure when you take your breaks. But you've got 36 weeks worth of material to work through. And the moment you finish, you can move on to the next level. You know, we all tend to suffer from this 12-year degree in how to do school, which is you have to start on the 15th of January and you have to finish on the 4th of December or your children are mentally scarred for life. And we all know that that's absolute nonsense. The beauty of homeschooling is, in a sense, you start when you like, you finish when you like. And you can move on to the next grade level the very next day if you finished the previous grade level. Well, certainly with Love2Learn, you can do that.
So just a summary of my understanding is you are essentially what I call a graded curriculum. You've got subjects and you've got grades, but you are breaking down the barriers between subjects and grades by making it possible to combine them. So you're sort of a graded curriculum with some elements of unit studies in it. And then also hear the word living books. So you've also got an element of Charlotte Mason. So you've incorporated a number of approaches into your offering.
Exactly that. We actually talk about, you can get it on our website. We've got a document in there called The Value We Bring to Education. And there's essentially 3 main aspects. The one is we are child-friendly, child-centered, educator-friendly, and then we have what we call our unique trilosophy. And the trilosophy is there are essentially 3 aspects of philosophies in education that have influenced the way Love2Learn has been designed. And the one is, you've already touched on it, is Charlotte Mason's educational philosophy. And that's had a marked impact on essentially the more foundational and intermediate levels. So foundational intermediate would be preschool into kind of grade 6. And then as we get into high school, classical education has had more of an impact on the way we've designed Love2Learn. Hence the incorporation of subjects like Latin, like critical thinking, absolutely vital. And we're in fact the local agents in South Africa for the distribution of the Critical Thinking Company's material. and it's absolutely superb and a wonderful, I want to say the word enrichment, but in terms of society today, the concept of critical thinking is almost not an enrichment. It's almost a critical need, pardon the pun. But so yeah, within that, and then the third aspect, so we've got Charlotte Mason, we've got classical education, and then the third aspect of what we offer comes out of an influence from, number one, our own 20 years plus of being in home education, combined with wanting to offer children preparation for what the buzzword, what people talk about is 21st century skills. So, and there's a lot of overlap in those three. They're not kind of little silos. They all intermingle. 21st century skills, again, one of the critical elements in that is critical thinking. The concept of interrelational interaction, being comfortable interacting with other folk, how we relate across cultural barriers, etc., etc. And within that, a biblical foundation from our perspective is an enormous blessing to have, building that into children, encouraging them into a relationship with Jesus Christ. And so yeah, those philosophies are all part of that philosophy of Love2Learn.
Yeah, I also had one of the featured speakers is an interview with Waswa Kanute, and that interview is about how to prepare your child for the 21st century. And one of the points that he mentioned is critical thinking, that you've got to be able to analyze arguments and clearly communicate and so on.
Yeah, it's becoming an essential need today, because I don't know, maybe in your upbringing, but certainly my upbringing, in the mainstream environment, you do not have the opportunity to encourage critical thinking. Whereas in a homeschooling environment, because of the more intimate and nurturing environment, and you've got so much more time on your hands, you've got the opportunity to encourage that into your children, which is a wonderful life skill to have.
The other thing I want to touch on, what came out of what you said, is often critics of home education say that it's parents are not teachers, therefore they cannot educate their children. And then the counter argument to that is no, but the handbooks for home educators are written in such a way that parents can do it. So whereas school handbooks are written for teachers, and that makes it possible for home educators to do it without being qualified teachers.
Yeah. How much time have we got? No, I'm kidding. But yeah, the reality in that is, first of all, research has proven that, and this is not just a handful of 5 or 10. They've done extensive research, which I know you're familiar with, Boa, but especially in the States, where they've compared homeschooled children who've come out of an environment. So let me start first thing. The first lot of research that was done was a cross-section of mainstream children and a cross-section of homeschool children. By cross-section, I mean good, bad, ugly, indifferent. For research to be scientifically valid, it's got to have a representative sample of the full spectrum. You can't just take the children from the A stream in this group and the children from the X stream in this group and compare them. It's got to be representative. And I forget the exact figure, but I think it was in excess of about 12,000 students that were polled in this research. And the interesting result of that was they gave them the same battery of, I think it was science and maths tests. And surprise, surprise, on average, the mainstream school children scored 50 on the 50th percentile. The homeschool children scored somewhere around, I think it was the 70th percentile. And they then did, I don't have access to this information, but I have had it from very reliable sources, and I forget the lady's name. The same research was duplicated or replicated in South Africa by a woman who was doing her master's thesis at UNISA. And I'm told she replicated the same thing again. In that instance, in South Africa, the mainstream children scored around about the 38th percentile. And the homeschool children, I think it was close to the 90th percentile. What's important to understand, though, is every homeschool child is not a 90 percenter. But what we are saying is under homeschooling environment conditions, the chances are your child is going to perform academically significantly better than they will do in a mainstream environment. So that's the first point to make. The second lot of research that was done in the States was they then took homeschooled children, cross-section again, good, bad, ugly, indifferent, but in the one group, they were coming from a family where mom and or dad was a qualified teacher. And in the other group, neither mom nor dad was a qualified teacher. Again, same battery of science, maths tests. Interestingly enough, the research, virtually identical results. So what that shows you is it's not about whether or not you as a parent are a qualified teacher. Interesting little aside quickly. When I talk to families, as I interact daily with families, not always, but often when I talk to parents, and one of the questions I always ask is, how's the homeschooling going? And whenever I hear the comment, my children are loving it, I'm battling. I can almost guarantee I know why. And when I say to them, what do you mean your children are loving it and you're battling? The first words that come out of the mom's mouth is, well, you see, Mark, I'm a qualified teacher and it's because they're trying to take and do it like school at home. Now, Love2Learn is not designed to be like a school. It's about putting the home back into education at a high standard. So coming back to your question then in terms of, well, you're not a qualified teacher. How can you expect to teach your children at home? One critical element that you need to remember in home education, or that parents need to bear in mind, you're not there to teach your children and make them dependent on you. A vital element in homeschooling, we believe, is that you need to be encouraging into your children that they become independent learners. If I could illustrate very quickly, picture 3 elements: student, teacher, material. In a mainstream environment, we can all relate to this from our schooling days. There were periods where we were whiz kids at maths, and there might have been a standard or a grade level where you nearly failed maths. And more often than not, it would have come down to the teacher. I had a lovely teacher. He was great, or she was great in grade 6, and I was brilliant. And then in grade 8, I really clashed with my teacher, and we just didn't get along, and I nearly failed maths. Well, that's kind of a bit disastrous, because you don't go to school to be influenced by the teacher. You go to school to be educated. Now, in a homeschooling environment, so what you've got in a school environment, student, teacher, material. And again, please, very crude example. Teacher and material interact, and then to lesser or greater extents of excellence, the teacher then interacts with the student. And hence you have those scenarios of loved them, did well, hated them, didn't do well, clashed, didn't do well, etc. In a homeschooling environment, what we endeavor to encourage families to explore is student, teacher, mom, the educator, and material. Mom, take yourself just above the picture. Bring the material and the student more into immediate interaction. You're still there in an oversight capacity. You're not abdicating. You're not even really delegating. But what you are doing is you're getting your child directly in touch with the material. In that way, a lot of what they're learning is through self-discovery. Now, I'm not saying for 1 minute, for example, buy Love2Learn, put your child in the corner, tell them, okay, good luck, off you go. No, it's not about that. But when you get into a facilitator's role with your child in more direct contact with the material, when they work things out for themselves, perhaps with your assistance, they will never forget it. As opposed to someone explaining something to you and you kind of half understand, but you're not so sure. And the other thing that's a big plus in homeschooling is the much more one-on-one attention. So when you come to these comments about, oh, well, you're not a qualified teacher, therefore you can't hope to teach your children. How can you hope to do what someone who's studied can do? It's not about that. It's a completely different mindset that comes to play the way we see it when it comes to homeschooling. So that mom and parent, mom, educator, student, and material are much more integrated as opposed to segregated, and ultimately encouraging into your child to become an independent learner. The fact is, Boa, if your children leave home still attached to your apron strings, I'm sorry to say you actually haven't done a very good job of being a parent. Part of what we're meant to do is to build into our children the ability to be independent thinkers, critical thinkers, and independent learners. And perhaps as a last comment on that, the little cherry on the top for us is, at the same time, building into your children a lifelong love of learning. That's kind of why we call ourselves Love2Learn. But that's what you want to instill. And that's not a pipe dream. That's happening in homeschooling environments every single day across the world. And so it doesn't come down to whether you have a degree or not. And then the other side that you've touched on is, there are teachers' guides that come with the material. We have our engine rooms, our daily lesson plans. So there is a huge amount of support, comprehensively integrated. It's not just, here's a couple of books, get on with it with your child, and here's a video or two, and here's a hands-on activity. The whole thing is integrated to support the family and ensure that there's, a love of learning. And I think at the end of the day, for us, the critical thing is we want to see children flourish. And homeschooling is an awesome vehicle to achieve that.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing. If we ask the question, what do we have to do to prepare our child for the 21st century? And one of the characteristics of the 21st century is that what Leonard used to say, the half-life of knowledge is becoming shorter and shorter. So given that the value of knowledge expires pretty soon, you got to be able to be an independent learner in order to survive in a fast-changing environment.
You're 100% right.
Now, my last question is, so there's been a boom in home education since the lockdown. How did the lockdown affect your business?
Look, in the overall, and undeniably, really positively. But the element is, with most families that we've, perhaps not most families, a lot of the families that were inquiring during lockdown were looking for a quick fix. I just want to fill the last 3 months, the last 6 months, the second and third term, or the third and fourth term, or whatever it is now. Within the reality is, within Love2Learn, that's not feasible. We're not our curriculum is provided per subject, covering an entire year's worth, for want of a better word. It's a full grade level of a subject. You can't, no two curriculums dovetail. So we can't sell someone half a maths curriculum or a fourth term of maths curriculum. So from that point of view, the families who were looking for just a quick fix, we weren't able to assist them. But families that are looking to get into homeschooling, perhaps for the more longer term, and I think a lot of folk have come to that realization. We've had a tremendous response there, which we're enormously grateful for. I think if certainly one or two things, if you were to highlight what the lockdown has done, and I say this with all due respect, parents during lockdown came to discover several things of their children in mainstream. Number one, how little their children are learning at school. And number two, how well their children understood and learned when the parents got involved on a one-on-one basis and interacted with them and helped facilitate things. I've had lost count of the calls that I've had from families saying, I just cannot believe how well my child has responded when I actually spend time with him. I cannot get over how little my child has been doing this at school. I look at this because a lot of parents are so caught up. I think one of the mistakes we often make as parents, and again, I say this with respect, is we tend to completely abdicate, not delegate. We abdicate educational responsibility to the school. And again, it's not about a criticism of the school environment. But the reality is, a classroom, if you are very fortunate, of your child being one of 25, but more likely one of 30, and in some instances 40, 50, even 55 children in a class, compared with a mom one-on-one with their child. You simply just can't compare. There is just no way that you cannot perform better with your child, given that nurturing, focused environment. And the big plus is the reality that no one knows that child like the mother. And in most families, the mother knows the child even better than the father. No disrespect to dads, but it's because mom spends more time with the child just as a natural progression of daily life. And so when you have a situation where a mom is able to put more undivided attention into their child, it's no wonder that children are going to flourish. It's no wonder that they're going to suddenly understand that concept. They're suddenly going to be doing their grasping reading so much better. And I mean, there's countless accounts from families in terms of what they've experienced during this lockdown. So I think it's been obviously wonderful for homeschooling as an across the board thing, where people are realizing just what's to be had there. In our over 20 years now of being in homeschooling, what I've found, Boa, is that people come to homeschooling for very many different reasons. Some of them it's spiritual reasons. Some of them it's improved academics. For some it's because of a personal lifestyle, maybe a high performance sporting child, etc., etc. They come to homeschooling for very many different reasons. But when they're in homeschooling, time and again, they realize it should have been our first choice all along.
Thank you very much. It was inspiring talking to you, Marc, and I've got to stop myself from asking more questions because you raise all kinds of interesting issues, but we got to limit this interview. Marc, thank you for exhibiting at the Expo. I would encourage everybody that listens to this video to go to the exhibitors and look at the exhibitors and visit Love2Learn. And remember, there's also a chat function. You can directly contact the exhibitors from the website. So Marc, thank you very much. Thank you for supporting the Expo, and I hope the Expo is going to be of value to your organization. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's really been a privilege, and I've appreciated this opportunity to share with you. Thanks a lot. Yeah, we're looking forward to the Expo and to helping families where we can.
Okay, goodbye.
Goodbye.